Hey folks, had a number of viewers ask about how to choose the right braid for their application. I'm here at Tochterman's Tackle in Baltimore. We're gonna head in, talk with Marcko. He's actually gonna spool up a couple of my baits reels for me. But we're gonna discuss choosing the right braid for your needs. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Jeff?
So you're already working on you're stripping off some old line from that one. So
yeah, from this reel, from this baits reel.
So we got, this is the goat, and this is the one I'm going to be building the next rod for. It'll be a crankbait rod, and then El Jefe there. We kind of swapped some line around.
Yeah, what is this? 30-pound super slick?
Or
is it 832?
30 pound, but it's
Suffix 832. It looks like.
I think this was, what was this? This might have been some of the Seagar.
Oh, see the Smackdown.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, I know that what we're putting on there. You know, I was in here the other day and looked through all the different options. You got a lot of options here. I'm gonna be throwing straight braid for crankbaits with this, and I chose it because it's, you know, well, it says engineered for toughness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marketing stuff there, but I wanted 30 pound to be able to really grind into those rocks on the Susquehanna with a crankbait.
I'll say with the Super Slick V2, it's a really great casting line, but also is abrasion resistant. It's not as noisy going through your guides like your standard Power Pro. You know, standard Power Pro has like a coarse texture to it. It's not as round.
Right.
A little more abrasion resistant, but the biggest trade-off you get going from regular Power Pro to Super Slick V2, you get better castability, and it's just not as noisy going through your guides. So, you know, for an application like a crankbait, if you're running crankbaits or jerk baits, it's just you know, you can run your baits more effective rather than, you know, if you're doing like bottom contact fishing, you know, the regular Power Pro would do a lot better. Right. So
for the I know for some of my lighter jig fishing, I do have some of those, and it looks like you got a spool of it there, like the metered braid, like the different color.
The Power Pro Depth Hunter. You know, that's a popular one for vertical fishing, whether you're deep dropping or like, you know, what you're doing, vertical jigging. Changes every 25 feet or so. Okay. So it gives you an idea, you know, rough idea of where you're fishing, you know, where your jig is at in the water column, and it's, you know, it's a good way to gauge where your presentation is.
What I like is there's a color change, and sometimes when you can't always feel a bite, you see your
bite. Exactly, and that's a visual thing that some people don't understand with the high visibility braids, is that
you need some dark in there.
Yeah, and it just allows you to see that hit before. A lot of times, like you were saying before, you feel it. You'll see your line jump, or you see like a tick or something in your line. But
sure,
it's a visual thing.
I've done that with, you know, Sharpie marker on just the straight yellow.
Right, and it just, you know, like you said, allows you to gauge where you're at in the water column. So I post on my social media every once in a while. You know, I'm not too active on there, but I'm active on there as far as like other content creators per se. But I really just post for fun.
Yeah.
You know, when I have stuff to post.
Tell me the Instagram.
It's 410 Fishing, and how that came about. 410 is the area code for Baltimore City. Yep. And I fish a lot of the spots around here in Baltimore City and surrounding areas, freshwater and tidal. But yeah, I picked that name up four years ago roughly, and it just stuck with me because I do a lot of urban fishing, so it's you know, I just stuck with it.
Fish from the bank.
From the bank, even in a kayak. There's a lot of kayak accessible spots around Baltimore City that people don't know about for different species. Right. Like the middle of Baltimore City, for example, the Inner Harbor. You know, people wouldn't think to even fish there, but there is some really good rock fishing, striper fishing up here. So, you know, it's just something cool. Because usually people, when They wouldn't put Baltimore City and fishing in the same sentence, but.
I would.
Alright, where are we at? When you're spooling up braid at home, or whenever we tell people if they want to get braid spooled up, always go to a shop, a local shop that has line spooling services, just because it's crucial to get braid on with a lot of tension, whether it's a spinning reel, a conventional reel, or in this case a bait casting reel.
That keeps it from digging into itself.
Exactly, because you just need a lot of tension to spool braid on correctly, and it helps with line lay as well, and it just keeps you from getting headaches out on the water, with wind knots and loose line. So yeah, if you happen to spool braid up at home, it's good to soak the spool in water first, whether it's a bucket of water just under the sink, because if you spool braid on wet, it just allows it to grip the spool tighter, as opposed to if you were just spooling it on dry. So yeah, if you do it at home, use backing as well. That's another thing. Unless it's something like like this bait caster, for example, where it's not going to go around the spool, it's going into the holes in the spool.
Yep.
But something like a spinning reel, always use backing. Some electric tape or some monofilament for backing. Just something for the braid to grip onto. So
nice.
Yep.
So what braid are you using for your striper fishing here in town?
So I have a couple different braids that I like to use. I'm fishing around cover, around pilings. I just like the standard Power Pro, just because it's coarse, it's very abrasion resistant. It's a lot of people's go-to.
How many pound test are you usually?
So depending on the time of the year, early season, big fish, I'm doing 30, 40 pound braid.
Yeah.
Seldom do I use more than 40. Thing? I do use leader.
What's your preferred leader?
My preferred leader is the Andy monofilament, or sometimes I'll even use the what is it called? Seeger Blue Label fluorocarbon. I'll use that. Again, time of the year and depending on where I'm fishing, I'll be using as light as 12, 15 pounds to as heavy as 50, 60 pound, for the bigger fish. But yeah, that's my go-to leader. Now another braid that I use, it's kind of go-to for me for a few seasons now, the Berkley X9. I like this stuff for the smaller class of fish, like the schoolie size fish.
Yeah.
Now this braid is pretty similar to like your Power Pro Super Slick. It's a lot thinner in diameter than most braids on the market, and it's really round too. So it goes to your guides. It's not as noisy, and it's, at least in my opinion, I think it's more abrasion resistant than Super Slick. But that's just my personal braid that I like to use in my arsenal for middle of the year, jigging, open water jigging, casting plugs, little bit of light structure fishing.
And you just chose a lighter diameter, which you're gonna have more sensitivity with the smaller diameter because you have a straighter line between your rod tip and your jig.
Absolutely, and it'll allow you to fish deeper water, especially if you're fishing, those soft plastics in, let's say, more than 30 foot of water, vertical jigging for stripers. It makes a difference. It makes a difference for sure, especially with your presentation.
How about the snakehead fishing?
Snakehead fishing. All right. So, as far as snakehead fishing goes, there are a couple braids that I like to use that work very well. This, again, I'll go back to the standard Power Pro, just because of the coarse material. Now, as far as the pound test goes for snakehead fishing, I'm not fishing anything less than 30 pound braid, and most of the time I'm fishing straight braid as well. So, because snakeheads aren't really known to be line shy fish per se, not very line shy fish. So you can get away with straight braid, but I'm not fishing anything less than 30 pound. Now, Power Pro, your standard Power Pro is one of your most popular braids for snakehead fishing. It's readily available in most places. It's easy to tie, and it's just, it cuts through weeds. Now, what I use for snakehead fishing, I use Berkley X5. So I showed you earlier, I showed you the Berkley X9, which was a 9-strand braid. Yeah. Now, the difference between the X5 and the X9 is the number of strands that they use in the braid. So
why does that matter?
So this matters. It changes the texture on the braid. It gives it a rougher texture.
Yeah.
So this braid is specifically made for fishing around structure, heavy cover fishing. So when you're wrenching those snakeheads out of heavy weeds or around stumps,
You're sawing through it.
you're sawing right through it. Right,
Wow.
right, and it just gives you.
So the lower number, the 5 instead of the 9 is
it makes a difference.
Teeth on that saw.
Exactly, and it allows you to. So it's a trade-off. So it really depends on what you're using it for. If you're fishing heavy structure, or fishing around structure in general, where your line's going to be rubbing, your coarser braids like the Berkeley X5 or like your Power Pro, they're great for that. Now, like in an open water situation where you're fishing for schooling fish like stripers or bluefish, and you need to make a long cast or whatever, your standard like 8 or 9 strand braid is good for that.
Nice.
So that's my breakdown of braids that I use, and it's hopefully I could help someone out
Cool.
with those tips.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Joe.
For sure, swing down to Tochterman's to get your stuff spooled up, and follow Marcko here on 410 Fishing on Instagram.
Fishing. That's right.
Thanks for watching.
Take it easy.